Hey traders, this is Christian from Hertz, Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day recap for Wednesday. And wow, what a day it was. I'll start with NRG, and this was a trade that I got into. Thank goodness I paid for Wi-Fi on my flight back from California because I got into this trade while I was on a flight. Big call buying. They came in a couple times on NRG. This was on Monday. So for those that are new to watching the tape and watching aggressive call activity or put activity, this is one of the best ones I could say that we've seen in a while. This wasn't even a takeout. This was a name that is doing restructuring. So you could see what they did here. They came in a couple times, not even that expensive. 25 cents, 5,000, and they came in for another 4,500 an hour later. All said and done on this particular on Monday, they traded 18,000 of these July 17 calls. So I always kind of adapt these trades for my style. I don't particularly want to take July options at this point in time with only, a little over a week to expiration. So what I did was I bought I bought August calls. I bought the August 17 calls for 59 cents. And I still have a position on their marking at $3.85. So an absolute home run. I hope you took this trade as well. This was a trade that we went over, even though I was on Wi-Fi on a plane. All of the Tribeca Trade Group subscribers saw it. So just unbelievable. So that kind of just set the tone for the day. By the way, this thing finished on the highs. So what you could do with this position if you're still in it like I am, being that I'm in an August position, or even if you're in a July position, you could always roll out to August. But you can set stop alerts. You could set trailing stops on this. Let's see where this thing wants to go to. Like I said, I already took targets on this trade, so I only have a little bit of a position left. But let's see where let's see where it goes. Keep moving your trailing stop up, and you never know, obviously, where a stock's going to go to, but something that finished up 29%, I think you stay with it and see where it wants to go. And if it starts to break down, keep using that trailing stop alert so that to get out of it. So okay, so besides NRG, I mean, it was just a monster day in terms of option activity. This just continued all through the day in various different groups, different sectors. The healthcare kind of pops out at me. There's a couple different sectors that pops out at me, but we saw just a lot of healthcare names. I don't know if it's because of there's a healthcare decision that could be coming out in a couple days. Who knows? But there was Sarepta, and I'll mention that there was also some put buying as well in the ETFs. So I think they were buying single names and hedging them out with the ETFs. So let me just go through a couple names that we saw here, and I think I'm missing a name, but Sarepta, AMRN. If we go further down the list, there was HCNP calls. There was HOLX calls. They actually came into HOLX a couple times. I took this trade. I like the chart very much in it. So August 50 calls traded. They also sold some puts. This particular trade, it looks like they bought calls and sold puts. Just a guess there, but I believe that's what they did. 8ZNP, I looked at the chart. Sometimes these things have to agree with you. So if we go to the daily chart in 8ZNP, it's kind of halfway through the gap below the 200-day moving average. I was contemplating what to do with this trade. I decided not to do anything because 2 minutes later I saw a trade in HOLX, which looks like a much better chart to me. This name's been in an uptrend, and it seems like the last couple of times it's kind of come into the 50-day moving average. It's bounced. So that's what I would be looking for. I already took a target in that one because it did finish higher than when I put the trade on. TTPH, another name we saw call buying in. Bristol Myers, Merck. Bristol Myers was small right at the day, but they came in a couple different times today for Merck. Amgen, which I believe already had an announcement. MDHG, which I believe is another healthcare name. So we saw call buying in that. We did see some put buying in both XLV, XBI. Just a guess here, but maybe they're hedging out some long exposure, some single name exposure with no one really wants most traders unless they're specifically looking for a surprise. and playing for one. In a regular course of business, most traders and portfolio managers don't want extra risk for an event. Again, unless they're specifically playing for it. So I'm guessing that they bought those XBI puts and XLV, which expire just in a couple days, as a hedge. Okay, so besides healthcare, just a lot of trades in semiconductors again, which I've been talking about the semiconductors for the last couple of days. Been talking about the inflows going into SMH. I don't have the inflow chart with me. Let's see. You can actually. I have got my spreadsheet up though, so you can see for SMH. Not that one. You could see $429 million have been added back into the SMH ETF. That's an increase in 70% increase in 70% of the fund. So somebody really, really, really bought the dip. If you also look at SOX, which is another semiconductor ETF, you could see a similar. So it looks like there was no change today, but $111 million added over the last 5 days. That's an 11 million. That's, excuse me, an 11% increase in the fund size. So you could see that this, and this is what's pretty interesting. Usually when you have days like this, you want to kind of take your profits and move on, which I did that. I took a lot of profits in names, Corvo, Palo Alto, Teradyne, TER, which I was long. I think there's one other semiconductor name or one other tech name that I was long today, but these are just showing MACD crossovers, which are usually swing trade entries that you want to see. So there is I actually drew a line in the Qs this morning, which it's not there anymore. Up there it is. So it looks like we're over that. I would say for the Qs, which have been really strong, since last Thursday, you do have some resistance at 141.09, but you can see very similarly, you've got also an MACD crossover here. So, and you go through single stocks one by one, and you see a lot of stocks that are just showing this. We were talking about EA, which we saw some call buying on Friday, and it didn't even have a MACD crossover. I think there's more upside for this one. Real nice day for this one, as well as ATVI. CEO was on a couple times, but again, not even an MACD crossover here yet, and the name's all the way through. Huge day, up 5% for this one. I need to mention the Chinese internets as well. We talked about this pre-market. I told my subscribers that watch this group. I mean, this group just, again, in MACD crossover, but this was the strongest group. If you're not watching this ETF, I think you really need to be, because it's got a lot of momentum. Was up another 2%, breaking outside of value today. And you look at the yearly performance in this ETF, you're missing a lot if you're not paying attention here, because this group is, whoops, I think I went too far. This group is up 41% year to date. So this is, of course, names like, these names have been on fire the last couple days. So your JD.com, your BABA, which a lot of traders have been playing. But then, we see names like this today. There was call buying in YY today. I mean, this thing took off like a rocket today, $57 to 60. I didn't even see any news on the tape, but look at the volume that occurred here, and there was call buying in this name. So, I mean, this group is just absolutely on fire. We saw calls in NTES. I'm still long this name. This name has gone up since I bought calls in this. Has gone up from 296 to 315. So nice move in that one. Again, no MACD crossover in that one. So trailing stop for me in this one as well. Facebook, just a huge move. Repeat call buying at Facebook. So I mean, look at this thing. Facebook made a 52-week high earlier, and then just continued to rally today. Again, just a fresh MACD crossover on a new 52-week high. So that was the best story, and they just came in repetitively today, like they've done in the last couple days. But right off the start, 20 minutes after the open, 5,000 of the August 175 calls. There was also a November call buyer. So they just kept on coming in for Facebook. I've got that on my list a couple times today. A couple other names that I was watching. I mentioned to subscribers yesterday. I said, I think Home Depot is eventually going to wake up a little bit. So finally a green bar there on Home Depot, and you've got your support. So 151.65. We also saw some weekly calls go up in Starbucks, which is another name that I think it's worth of paying attention to. You got two levels of support here. That white line is the 200-day moving average. The green line is the bottom of value area. So maybe Starbucks has a little bit more to go, considering it moved from 64 to 58. I think I talked about that in yesterday's video, as a matter of fact. Then if you obviously can't take every trade. I was trying to kind of hold off from, I added a couple new trades today. This was one that I just couldn't add to on my watch list, but TXT, this has worked for me previously in aggressive call activity. So another defense name, really nice move, really nice sharp aggressive call buyer today. We don't see calls a lot of times in this name, but they came in a couple times. January and December calls. You could see this was quite a big order for December. Small contracts, which we've been seeing a lot and a lot of activity. Not a huge quantity of contracts, but they've been going in the money and purchasing these. So. All in all, for the Decembers, they traded just 365. Really, it was the January 55s that saw the most quantity of call activity. So another name there. I did add this biotech name in cash, very highly speculative, TTPH. If you look at what the implied volatility is in this name, it jumped up huge. You could also see the volume here on this move up here. So really a high spec name. I would rather buy stock versus options in something that has an implied volatility of like 100%. So a little bit easier to deal with. 700, the most I could lose is 750. Also some support. I have my alert set below 710, but we'll see what this wants to do. Above the 200-day moving average, above the 50-day moving average. Give it a shot. What else? They snuck in some HBI calls at the end of the day, 4,000. So again, a different sector, not just all technology. Corvo saw call buying today. Palo Alto saw call buying today. Two names I was already in coming into today. Let's see, where do I want to leave this? I would say another spec name, GPS. I don't know what they're doing. I would call this a lotto trade. They bought, about 5,000 of these gap calls that expire, Friday. So don't know what they're up to. 11 cents. I bought a 10 lot today just as a, $100 investment, just as a lotto at the end of the day. AAOI, this name has been really, really good on option activity. Maybe I'll leave it with this one. Unfortunately, trying to get into calls in this name is really difficult. But man, this thing takes off on aggressive call activity. So that's it for today. Keep in mind that the VIX, they did put another huge one of these crazy trades on the tape again today. 135,000 contracts. They paid 5 cents, it looks like, for this call spread, 30, 35. So I would call this crash protection. That's what I used to call it on the desk. When somebody buys way far out of the money calls and the VIX or puts way far out of the money, they've got some what's called crash protection on. So, somebody paid 5 cents 135,000 times for those. Decent sized trade, maybe a hedge versus some portfolio. Who knows? But an interesting trade. The final thing, so despite all these nice MACD crossovers that look like they're just happening, one thing that worries me a bit is we're almost back to a 9 handle again in the VIX. We've certainly seen what happens here previously when we get to a level of about, when we duck under 10 in the VIX. So that concerns me a little bit. We've seen a spike in the VIX a couple times once we get to that 9 range. So take it for what it's worth. It's very cheap to hedge your portfolio right now. So, taking some profits in some things, maybe selling a little bit of out of the money, call spreads in the indices, maybe in SPX, I don't think is the worst idea as the VIX gets lower and lower here. Again, we've seen this a couple times the last few weeks or the last month where the VIX gets to be right around a 10 and we see a shoot up in volatility. So be on the alert for that. And again, it's very, very cheap to hedge. So you definitely have some things available to you to do if you want to stay long and let your winners ride here a little bit. All right, so thanks very much for watching tonight's video, and see you bright and early Thursday morning. Thank you.